So, it's on there, right, and I do have a giveaway. I just have a cup of brisket.
Whoa.
Would anyone like it? If you want this cup of brisket, you have to come to the microphone and say, "I'm addicted to reality." Flash one of these like Gen Z hearts or one of these millennial hearts.
I'm addicted to reality.
So this is the 15-minute version update of the Reality Clownz project. I gave a 1-hour update last year at the YDL, just short for the Ypsilanti District Library last year. The Reality Clownz project, I think in 2022 I was like, maybe my life is like a human prank, and there's no direction anymore. There's only like this kinetic feeling, or maybe this day-to-day relationships. I'm being kind of incoherent, but I started promoting this ideology with like a handbook and different guides of this leaderless, self-organized, not called that like never meets up, called the Reality Clownz, where like we experience moments of actionable feeling in ourselves that somehow we're connecting to this kind of I don't know what the word would be for it, but it's this purpose. I found out that I'd like misinterpreted. Did you see Closet Ghosts today? Did anyone see that band? Yeah. They have a song called like Worms Pay My Rent. And I think it sums everything up pretty well, but it turns out I had misinterpreted that song because Paige was talking about worms like literally paying her rent by like composting and eating her landlord. But when I heard that song, for me, I kind of started interpreting it as like, oh yeah, like all of our greatest ancestors probably weren't even human or don't have names. Like the people that have contributed to our wildness and depth of feeling aren't going to be anyone that we can actually remember. It's more the music of everything that we connected to. In that sense, worms do pay my rent. I mean, this idea is something without eyes, always eating. Yeah, nothing I'm gonna say is gonna be funny. So, all right. So this it was Pride Month in June, and I started writing things that were just called Pride, like no matter what they were about, just for fun. This is a poem called Pride. I still honestly don't believe they're winning. Ever since Sewer taught me the word prefigurative, I project through the chaser's thirst for our magic, the appearance of a big orb, goddess consciousness, pulsing and growing, flipping everything, exoticization to egg, and fetish to fish. His laptop melts into his lap, burning a new pelvis. My mouth is on his shoulder, and my mouth is in your ear. I give you the okay. Be a little bitch. I've been, me and Sura and Nor and Roman have been living in more or less in a truck for 3 weeks. And I try to do this writing process where like I close my eyes and type without thinking as much as possible. And I did write 90 pages. So I'm just going to sample that. I don't really know. I haven't read most of this. But I'm just going to share some precognitive language. Oh yeah, so I had this vibe that I feel like, you know, this project of like making like rich life very unfun is really important right now. Because it seems like there's no like consciousness raising, you know, path at this point. It's like a full, we have to like rip our livelihood back out from people that are like tantrically interested in exploiting others. Like that's so true all the time, right? But especially right now. And like, it's so crazy because if you like rip one head off the hydra, like it just gets replaced with another head. So there has to be like this cloud of unfunness that somehow enters like the people that are like architects of purpose. They're architects of exploitation, really, or like the artificial merit of deserving to exist or be alive. Like we have to like actually like make every environment they're in so uncomfortable all the time. It's something that I want to orient myself towards, and that it's a kind of a reality clown thing to do. But I had like, and I also know someone who's making this card game that's like about like all the different factions of some project like this. And she asked me to write a description to create like a group for it. So I was thinking about what I want to do. I'm actually in a group called, I guess I shouldn't say I'm in it, but I'm like a sponsor in this group called Art Hose Anonymous. And yeah, like, you know, it's an interesting group. Like, I feel like we have like certain abilities, like certain access, certain things. So I made like a class description for the Art Ho faction for the next several years. Okay, so, and I haven't read it, or like, this is sort of unedited. You're not just a baby. You're so fucking real. So if you're gonna be sexy with it, go pull down a plug and wound the John forever. Men's obsession with ass. This is the obvious leak. They have an obsession with power, and power for its own sake, and that includes faking loyalties to wives and business partners. They dream of transgressing their own rules because it's an aspect of power. Many politicians break the moralistic laws they make. Many in the military hire dominatrixes to permit them to act as groveling sissies. Most people are in an Ouroboros of undeciding, an ambiguous place in the domination-submission spectrum in which they live, not sure if they've chosen their role or if someone else has. While in this state of not knowing, one of these powerful men sees a baddie. She's trying to make things work. Her interest in her own peace demands her sexuality. He finds her in the hopes of becoming her as a vacation. He does, and thinks of her all the time, wondering what she needs and how he can be of value to her. Life is a nightmare. The choices of straight life consume him, and most men, all never to be heard from again, in clouds of lost dreams, crying into their drinks, pumping gas, and trying to die without being detected. These men, these forlorn men with unsorted insides and massive formal powers, want someone to animate life, joy against their baseline of cynicism and hatred. Even sometimes his wife's rearing of their children hasn't done enough of this. He wants more than that animation of life. We appear blank to him, an art hoe, brainwashed by the underground into being a pretend smart, dumb slut. The appreciation of the mundane, the fruits, the flowers, the way light hits everything in romance. In the language of many skills, decoration, curation, reflection, are enjoyed by men, but not treated as if they required work and observation to develop. But the art ho sugar baby knows well this relationship between consciousness and silence. Tell him what we want from him and impose hard limits of what he can get from us, firm boundaries on access to our unlimited softness. And when he is not aware, we take his agency from him. Permanently, this time. Not just his relationship, not just his money, everything. The fact that Grimes had Elon Musk's stick inside of her and didn't bite it off or kill him in that moment of vulnerability means she is a scab to all of us. In 2020's feudalism, where the cybernetic structure is shown bare, we have broken down to the raw powers. The communication channels are masculine, and they have a tight control on language. The service economy is increasing, and many young worship Spring Breakers' exploitation and sleaze, this acknowledgement that sex is a critical part of access. The roles are regendering, and sex worker women get to go underneath this faceless hydra that replaces its many heads at any time, be perceived as blank no matter how many histories live within us. What key stakeholder could there be? When you cut off one head, it's often replaced by the other. These individuals do not have a special consciousness. All powerful figures, the same desire, to exploit without limit. We have to draw Hydra's blood, demoralize this faceless snake, and figure out a way not just to sour one face of evil. We need to make rich life unfun, constantly and everywhere, so when it regrows faces, they don't dare consider us prey, while enjoying and animating wealth's opulence and the many fruits. Dropping any bag dropped onto us, onto our loved ones, all over the spectrum of desirability. The inability to identify clear stakeholders has deflated public and subcultural action. The conscience of politicians do not change the conscience of politicians anymore. Beating up a few cops may just be a drop in the bucket. There needs to be a mycelium-type distribution of techniques for deep revolt that can be applied generously and everywhere simultaneously, and we must prefigure success in creating abundance and decreasing cybernetic control. We need to seduce everyone into the mystery of dismantling power, and we need to seduce power away from its own self-interest. I think I have like 5 minutes. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just have like 100 pages. I'm just kind of DJing. I'm just gonna like go different places on this little journey now called life, baby.
Yeah.
That's nice. Okay. Again, this is something I wrote. I wrote this next to Noor like the other day. We like went to Catawba Falls in Virginia or North Carolina. I'm actually not sure. And it was interesting to be in like a tourist spot that used to be like an indigenous nation because the water was really like, I don't know, it felt like a mirror to a lot of things. And it was just, I get really stuck on this idea that like we've transformed a lot of spaces into these spaces that like many people move through per second or per hour, like the highway, we're just like cutting the air 80 times per second, and that those like spots had like different purposes and different rhythm a long time ago. And being the Catawba Falls, like I just like felt something from the Catawba Nation. And again, I don't really have a vague understanding of how they lived and what they did, but it was odd that like there's this spot that people just look at now that used to be, you know, a site of like ecology and symbiosis. So I wrote something called vacuum avoidance. This is all, I'm kind of like dipping into all like politicized manifesto language. There's like other stuff in here, but we're just doing this. Okay, and also, yeah, oh god. There's also like this like art movement of like postmodern American realism that is really freaky to me when people are like kind of trying to like ironic the United States. I feel like a lot of these symbols are like unreclaimable. Like when someone like posts like the little 4th of July like photo, and like I'm celebrating the 4th of July as like art ho or something. It's like, no you're not. So anyway, I was thinking about all that, and also there's this Times Square scene in New York that's like, I know people who are in it. It's like not cool, but it's like literally like a fascist like new media scene is emerging, and I'm like trying to get like into the consciousness of like how to stop that, make those people not have fun doing that, because there's like a lot of like the founder of PayPal is like paying all these people to make like postmodern like American joy, and it's like an art movement to be like, oh, like we're still like enjoying the fruits of settler colonialism, but like we're like ironic, and there's like a vibe. And there's like this Web 1.0 version of Catholicism that a lot of people are converting to, where it's like cloudy backgrounds and like the metal chains. And like people I like literally know are like converting to Christianity right now. And just because like they don't really want to be part of like the futility of like loving each other in any real way, they want to do it in the same coherent way. And not to say all Christianity isn't like a portal to like symbiosis and community, but this is not that. So anyway, this is called vacuum avoidance. Reject American realism, reject American postmodern realism, reject American internet aesthetics realism, and create your own language. The call of every nurturer I encounter in my travels, when I ask, how do you maintain your ability to have symbiosis or care in a seemingly unconventional or uncolonized configuration, each person I ask will highlight the joy in creating one's own language. How do you create your own language? It doesn't have to be from nowhere, because what can be But finding the words that bring you connective joy, access to kinetic liberation must be prioritized before advertising apparatuses vacuum up the meaning of all of them, the liberation contained, and the president uses them in a meme campaign, and the gas station used it to sell a chicken sandwich that no one cooked. Words are living things, temples of meaning totally defined by how the people that use them actually live. They are altars of actualization that we maintain. A countercultural gesture can quickly become absorbed and become an alternative cultural gesture so quickly. And the alternative culture can be absorbed and become a monocultural gesture so quickly. And the monocultural gesture can become absorbed and become a xenophobic gesture so quickly. Just like language spreads from the indigenous kid poet to the first gen kid, to the art hoe who dates them, to the techie that likes the art hoe, and the banker who likes the techie, and the multinational real estate apparatus who likes some amount of people, ones who protect those that have the soul loss to exploit constantly. Language spreads like the closet Christian who lusts for trans women, and the white gay who loves the phrases, and the television syndicate who loves the queen power couple, and the married who engage them to buy a house, and their children who joins the IOF, and the settler siphoning the blood. Language spreads like the implication of being a celebrated artist, credit card held by petrochemical, the graphic design, the energy drink, blood of someone braver, the hyena in the woods can't be heard, standing in the kitchen of a no-window apartment, of a transit corridor across the highway from someone in solitary who is less afraid than them to experience lust. What can be new examples of blood? Spaces of hypermobility, taking away source energy from the air, being cut through and passed at 80 miles per hour, hundreds of times a minute. Indigenous nation being a tourist site to walk through and itemize something that was once alive, teeming with desire and conflict and growth. And it's still flowing water. We look in the same mirror and see something. Even in our own tongue, we find out that the blue lake wasn't named correctly. It is clear, reflecting particulates, and we have to be careful about what particulates get into us that obstruct our desire to be open to anything. Is it a vacuum? Is it a vacuum that all the music genres are now on top of each other? The speed, the aggression, the sweetness, the prettiness, the ugliness, the sexiness, and the faith. Is it a vacuum that all the art styles are on top of each other? The metallic, the herbal, the traditional tattoo, the Pokemon, the fashion brands. And is it poison that all we absorb must be strained through monoculture? What can be pure between us other than mutualistic expressions of monoculture's destruction? When it attempts to stain everything we touch through its hatred, what can be purer than expressing anti-culture?